Nina Shea, director of the Huston Institute Center on Religious Freedom and author of the report, 10 Years On, Saudi Arabia's Textbook Still Promotes Religious Violence. Thanks for this, Ms. Shea, and good to be talking to you.
Great to be here. Thanks, Mark. Well, the first report I finished in '05, and I had started working on it several years before, actually, when a group of Muslims came to me and said, when are you going to deal with religious freedom? When are you going to start studying what Saudi Arabia is preaching about other Muslims? Basically, what they're teaching is a worldview that the Jew and the Christian are enemies of the believer, the Muslim believer, and that is one of the direct quotes. The clash between the Muslim nation and Christians and Jews will endure as long as God wills. That Muslims will fight the Jews until Judgment Day, and then God will let the Muslims win. So it's a much more violent indoctrination than simply just hatred. It's a very Manichaean worldview where the Muslims are taught that they are good and that everybody else is bad. The U.S. government will bring it up to the Saudis year after year, and every year the Saudis don't defend it. They don't say, well, this is proper, this is appropriate. They, in fact, say, we're going to change. We have a new 2-year plan. We have a new 3-year plan. When I was in Saudi Arabia this year, they're saying they have a new 5-year plan. So they keep promising to change these to the State Department.
But have you seen any mellowing in the text at all in the last 5 years?
No, I haven't. No, and that's what's so disturbing. And as you put, no, I have not. There's no substantial change. It still talks approvingly of jihad and of killing and struggling against these other religions. And as you pointed out, it's not just the 5 million Saudi students who are in school. It's on the website of the Ministry of Education, so that anybody can download these around the world, and they ship them through their embassies to schools throughout the world, to Islamic schools. So it's very, very subversive.
Do you mean every mosque could be a front for a terror activity cell?
Yeah, and the answer is still no, not every mosque, but unfortunately the vast majority of them, it appears, have in fact received funding from a Muslim Brotherhood front known as the North American Islamic Trust, much of it coming from Saudi Arabia, and with that comes the program of the Saudis and in fact of the Muslim Brotherhood itself, namely promoting Sharia. This organization, the North American Islamic Trust, is identified by the United States government as a Muslim Brotherhood front. It has been used as a pass-through for funding from Saudi Arabia for the purposes of purchasing the mortgages of mosques. And with that come the imams, with that come the pedagogy, with that come the textbooks, the videos, and so on, all of which have as their purpose promoting Sharia.
Now, our mosques, honestly, as a Muslim American, need some cleanup. They need some cleanup. So some of those sermons need to be profoundly edited with wisdom and intelligence.
There's no such thing as peaceful Islam.
My PhD is in the first 2 centuries of Islam. And what I'm impressed by is how Islam has changed. You can take a concept like jihad, and you see how it's changed over the centuries. And more specifically, I've been in this field now for exactly 40 years, since 1969, and I've seen tremendous change. The Islam of 1969 was very different from the Islam of 2009. And if it can get worse, and it did get worse, it can get better.
And practicing Muslims cannot be loyal Americans. Case in point, Pamela Geller says devout Muslim Americans should not be allowed to serve in the military. This is not how we do business in America, right? If you said this about African Americans and some person was from the Ku Klux Klan, you have a right to say what you want to say in this country, but we have a right to veer the conversation towards moderation. We're not going to promote you as experts on racial relations in America, right? Because we know your agenda.
But that is what's happening.
And that is what's happening. We're not going to promote you as experts on racial relations in America, right? Because we know your agenda. anti-Muslim.
The radicals represent only themselves, an extremist and violent fringe.
Anti-Muslim.
And it is very important to point out that the overwhelming majority of Muslims are not members of militant groups.
Anti-Muslim agenda.
Well, I don't know of anyone. You certainly don't. I don't. Those of us that we know don't refer to all Muslims. We are almost obsessive in saying it's not all Muslims, but
all Muslim Americans are a threat.
Of course, and Michael, of course, that's all a tactic. You know, that's the strategy that they pursue to constantly accuse us of claiming that all Muslims think this way or all Muslims are involved in terrorist activities or even sympathetic to terrorism, when none of us have ever said anything remotely like that and have denied it all over the place in so many ways, in so many different contexts.
Anti-Muslim hysteria. And that's what the report does. The report, using their own words. It's thoroughly sourced.